You're listening to the Movement is Medicine Show, a podcast hosted by Head to Toe Spine and Sports Therapy, a modern chiropractic and manual therapy practice in Edmonds, Washington. Now, let's get into the show. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the show. And it's a happy new year. I've got the whole crew assembled here on the Movement is Medicine Show. What's up, everyone?
What's up?
What's up?
How's it?
New year, here we go.
Yeah, happy new year. So today, super exciting. Just the new year, everybody's setting goals, everybody's thinking about what they want to achieve this year, and we're going to dive into it with this killer framework, the 6 pillars of health. So we're going to round robin. We're going to share some of our insights, our ideas, our tips, our tricks for you to take these pillars and unlock your life in just incredible new ways this year. And of course, where are we going to start?
Food.
We got to start with food because food is the number one thing. Now, we know we say movement is medicine, but also food is medicine, right? So let's share some of our thoughts around food, what we're doing this year. What do we think it's going to be really effective? What are our best suggestions that we have either for ourselves or for people out there?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like food is just a huge part of not only just like starting off the year, but I mean, just health in general, right? I mean, it's something that people need to pay attention to. It's something that we eat, well, depending on the person, 3 to 5 times a day or more, maybe. So it really, paying attention to what you put in your body is really important. For myself, ever since working here, I would say, making sure that I get my 3 meals a day is like the biggest thing for myself. But what's in those meals is also what's most important for myself, okay? At the beginning of the day, I make sure I get enough fiber, and I do a big smoothie for that. You don't have to do it that way, but that's the way that I do that. Getting an adequate amount of protein is going to be really important for myself because I exercise. I know a lot of you might be having new goals for this year in terms of exercising. And making sure that you get good sources of carbohydrates for that is going to be really important as well. And then the other one that I feel like is also just really paramount is making sure that you're getting adequate amounts of fat. I feel like fat got a really bad rap for a long time. And I feel like there could be some people that still think that way. But getting fat in is extremely important, but it's the sources of fat that you're getting it from that are going to be extremely important as well. Which, I mean, the biggest ones that I try to focus on myself are going to be like avocados. That's a big one that I use in my smoothie and I usually have with lunch sometimes. At the end of the day, I do a salad. I usually have olive oil on that, and it's really healthy fat as well. And then sometimes as a snack, midday, something like that, I tend to do like just some combination of nuts, seeds, that sort of thing, right? So if you're hitting kind of those big macronutrients, the protein, carbohydrates, and fat, those are the biggest things you want to pay attention to. Quantity is also going to play into that as well. I'm sure somebody else can kind of chime in on that as well. But those are the biggest things for myself is making sure I'm hitting adequate amounts of all of those. And for me, it's based on my activity level throughout the day.
You just summed up like all the like diet and food nutrition wisdom into like
there is
60
more
seconds.
to it than that.
There is, but I mean that's the foundation for sure. And then I think it's figuring out how that's going to come to life for you. Are you going to track your macros? Are you going to weigh and measure? Are you going to be an intuitive eater? You a clean eater and a whole 30 eater, paleo eater, or whatever? Keto, which is a kind of different thing, right? But again, nailed it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's totally different. I mean, there are a lot of different diets out there, right? I mean, keto is one that got a lot of attention recently. I mean, there's even things like carnivore diet where people are just eating straight meat all the time.
Raw meat.
Just sometimes, hey, if you want to go that extreme. But, I mean, there's a lot of different diets out there. Finding what works best for you for your goals is the biggest thing.
Yep.
I was actually talking with one of our athletic trainers recently just about, like, starting off the new year and diet and everything like that. And if one of those like diets like keto or sometimes what people consider fad diets works for you, great. I mean, that's awesome. Some people utilize those to lose weight quickly at the beginning of like getting into those types of diets. But I always find that like if you just eat like whole foods, like natural foods, trying to get them from good sources and eating them in just proper amounts throughout the day, I think we all find that to be a lot more sustainable long term. So that would be my recommendation for a lot of people is just to find good, clean, whole foods, eat them in amounts that work for you. And, if you want to try some of the fad diet, sure, whatever, that's fine. But I would just try and stick to the basics, honestly.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with like food is actually just like the timing of when you're eating. So with that, like the timing being, you got to be very conscious of when you start eating and when you end your eating like throughout the day. Like when we go to sleep, we should be in a fasted state. And that's what most people tend to get wrong. That's why that will deteriorate sleep quality in general, which we're going to get into a little bit more. But with that, when we have a high fatty meal towards the end of the day, that fat is like a slow burning energy, right? So that will sustain us throughout the night. If we're going to pick one meal to be the fattiest meal, dinner is probably our best one. And that can be accomplished with like a fatty piece of salmon, or like Dr. Tim does, the avocado is really good, coconut oil, adding that to like say like a squash right nowadays. Like I love putting like coconut oil and cinnamon on my squash. It tastes really good, especially when you've got like the colder months. It's very hearty, very like good starches like Tim was just talking about. But the timing in itself can be really massive, and people can lose weight just by changing around their timing. Like when they say intermittent fasting, we're not saying like you have to starve yourself and skip meals. It's more so eating at a regimented time and not eating during a regimented time. So like if your feeding window is 8 hours or 10 hours, regardless of what it is, be consistent with it. Your body's going to adapt to that, and you're likely going to lose weight just by changing those habits themselves. If
Killer.
that's what your goal is.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you might have a performance goal, but 80, 90, 95% of the time, we have some kind of a weight loss goal or some kind of a body recompositioning goal. Great. Yeah, meal timing. Whole science there. Love it.
Yeah, circadian rhythm.
Simplified it down for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I feel like what Lee just touched on, which is probably the most important in terms of any of this, in terms of food and diet, is consistency. Like if you are able to get consistent like types of food that you're eating, consistent timing, that's the most important part of all of this. Yeah.
I love it. I think that everything is, I 100% agree with, and I think it really kicks us off into our second pillar of health, which is sleep quality. Because our diet really, really affects the quality of our sleep at night, as Lee was just saying. And so sleep quality, sleep hygiene, those are things that are talked about a lot, but really, we're really in a sleep deficit in America, and it's one of our biggest health issues, I think. We're not getting that recovery time. And, we'll have our sleep expert, Dr. Rebecca Hoppin, Seattle Naturopathic, on the show again, but she talks a lot about this very thing, right? You don't load up on the carbs before you try to go to sleep, because then you get this insulin resistance, cortisol spike in the night, and it really, really messes up with your sleep quality. But if you're doing a high quality fat protein combination alongside of a carbohydrate, then your sleep quality is going to be so much better.
And not like drink a bottle of wine before you go to bed.
Yes,
I mean,
that's correct.
Well, you're going to fall asleep pretty quick.
Yeah, you
then.
will fall asleep quickly.
But
That is true. It does
quality
help with
might
the
not be.
initial stage of sleep.
But then you're going to wake up. And then,
Yeah, like 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And not be able to go back to sleep. So.
exactly.
Yeah, like Annie was saying, though, we're all kind of like sleep deprived nowadays, though. But I think a lot of that has to do more so with the environment that we're around changing so much. Like now we've got screens around us at all times, so that blue light, it sends a feedback loop through when our eyes see blue light, it sends a feedback loop to our brain to increase our energy stores and increase sympathetic tone in the body, which sympathetic tone is fight or flight. So that's like you running around all day. In the middle of the day, that's fine. Like first thing in the morning to get a bunch of light, like shining into your eyes is going to be great. It's going to wake you up. But towards the end of the day, like especially now, like this time of year around here, it's like dark at 4:30. So people are in front of those screens for another 2 hours, even when that's occurring. And just because of the environment, that can affect our sleep negatively sometimes. So just something to keep an eye on. Blue blocking glasses can be really helpful. High fatty quality foods like omega-3 fatty acids are really helpful for helping with blue light. There's a couple things you can do nutritionally that are going to help as well.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of just sleep mask, earplugs, cold room, the basics of,
The cave.
the cave principle. Yeah, keep it dark, keep it cold, keep it quiet.
Absolutely.
No dogs in the bed. This is a huge, how do people sleep with dogs in their bed? I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a dog, so I wouldn't know. So.
Oh, it's common.
Oh, the dog sleeps on the couch. He has his own bed. But I think another thing that Tim's hit on is just that the consistency and those habits that you get into. So avoiding the screen time before you go to bed, and then making sure that you have a routine, like whether it's for exercise or food or just even sleep. So when you're ready to go to bed, like bed means sleep. So you make that association.
Easier said than done, but it is fundamental. And if you have that intention and you put this on your New Year's, I'm going to get better sleep. These are the tips and tricks that they're going to get you there. They will absolutely help. Ashley, where do you want to take us next?
It looks like the next pillar we're going to talk about is hydration, which I think is hugely important. I feel like besides the two we just mentioned, like if people just drank more water throughout the day, you'd feel so much better, like overall. And I don't think I started to get into much of hydration until I became a chiropractor here at this clinic. I've like gotten so much into all of the aids, the liquid IVs, the Nuuns, all the powders, all the drinks that can like keep you hydrated throughout the day. And like for me, the biggest thing is how can I keep myself hydrated without needing to drink water all the time? So using those aids, I think, is really helpful. It depends on who you are. Also, if you're working out more throughout the day, even if you're not, just keeping things flowing throughout your body is just like hugely important in terms of energy, in terms of just anything that keeps you going throughout the day. And I know all of these guys here have different ways of hydrating their bodies and keeping them hydrated. So
This is a hydration obsessed clinic.
for sure,
We've talked about it like a
Absolutely.
million times.
Yeah, yeah.
Got a good podcast about that.
Yeah.
Go check it out. I mean, we don't even we'll start it right now. Eat your water, don't drink it. I
Right.
mean, our whole thing is,
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing also with hydration is like Ashley touched on, like everybody's different. Like your sweat content is going to be different than my sweat content, and with that we need to replenish those electrolytes as well. Like some people sweat more potassium, whereas others sweat more magnesium and calcium or zinc. It's just different per person, and you're going to find that certain minerals help you to sustain activity and hydration for longer. So, like you said, eat the water, figure it out. Look in the toilet bowl after you're done urinating and see, like, is it fairly clear? As long as it's fairly clear, you're doing good.
yeah. And along those lines, it's really interesting. And just one kind of thing I'd throw out there is this idea of genetic vitamin testing, where you can kind of see these days where your predispositions lie and what your genetic pathways are and how you're metabolizing and utilizing different vitamins and what you might be very deficient in, or maybe what you hold on to more, what you don't need to get more of. So I think you bring up a really cool point there. And oftentimes we one size fit all everything, but really we are these beautiful, individualized snowflakes that are very unique and need special attention and care, like sweet, beautiful baby unicorns.
Just,
Absolutely.
just gorgeous. Just a
So
gorgeous
poetic.
creature.
I mean, and with that too, you've got things you've got water soluble vitamins and you've got fat soluble vitamins that are common in nutrition, right? So like Dr. Tim said about food, if you're not eating enough fat, you're probably not holding on to those fat soluble nutrients as much as you should. So your body's going to get degraded from that. The less water in your body, the less your body can transfer nutrients from tissue to tissue, area to area, and overall it's just going to help you a lot more to have more water and to dial in that nutrition.
I think another thing too, on the same way that you can time your eating, you can also time your hydration and when you drink water. If you guys are having trouble with staying hydrated throughout the day, just think about the things that you do throughout the day. For example, before I drink coffee in the morning, if I ever do, I'm going to down like 8 ounces of water, maybe put a Nuun in it, I don't know. And make that a habit so that you can actually maintain the amount of hydration that you have throughout the day. So it's important to think that yes, you can time your eating and you can also time your hydration, make it become a habit every day.
Yeah, no, I love that you just touched on that because I know we're talking about a little bit of what we do too, right? And it's like for myself, it's like I drink water before every meal, right? And it's usually anywhere between like 8 to 16 ounces of water. Usually at lunchtime, because we're working here, just to preserve a little bit more energy, I will use a Nuun, right? So I'll have a Nuun before lunch. It keeps me hydrated. And it actually helps with hydration before you have a meal as well. So if you want an easy way to do that, like Dr. Ashley was saying, just do it before meals. And also when you first wake up, right? Even if you are one of those people that intermittent fasts or anything like that, or you don't eat a breakfast right away, just drink water right away as soon as you get up. It's like one of the best things you can do to start the hydration and get your cells hydrated at the beginning of the day.
I love it. What about exercise? Obviously, that's one of our big pillars. Let's talk a little bit about what's hot this year. What are we looking at in terms of exercise? I mean, I think there's a lot of cool things you can get into. You have so many choices these days. Thank God gyms are back open. Classes are happening again. I'm a big fan of the daily walk. That was a big transformational thing for me. I didn't really realize the power of getting those 10,000 steps a day. It's a basic thing. Sounds silly, but man, walking and hitting those bigger step numbers, one of the best types of exercise you can do.
I mean, CrossFit, right? No, I just say that because I do it. No, but I mean, anything whatever form of exercise you want to do is great. And then we've talked about this on a podcast before. Dr. Lee had mentioned this, where it's just find something that you enjoy doing, and it doesn't need to be something that you're doing for an extremely long period of time. Right? You don't want to overexert yourself right away, especially if you're getting into working out for the first time. Choose something that's a little bit easier for you at first, something that you actually enjoy, something you can get into. And even if you keep it around 30 minutes or so, great. That's perfect to start out. I mean, you can get a great workout in 30 minutes regardless, depending on intensity that you're doing. So I don't, for most people, don't feel like you have to start just going balls to the wall right at the beginning, right? Trying to do as much as you can. Start small, a few days a week, 30 minutes, something like that, and that's perfect. Yeah.
Agreed. The other thing I think about with exercise that I feel like is missing for many people is resistance training. So I would really encourage everyone this year to embrace some form of resistance training. I mean, pick up some weights, push yourself, not just from a cardiovascular standpoint. I know a lot of great runners, a lot of great endurance athletes. And then when I hug them, though, they just feel like frail little birds, and I just want to break them in half. And I say, get into the gym and lift some weights.
Well, and with that too, it's like some people avoid weights because they don't want to injure their joints, which is totally understandable. Nowadays, though, they're developing systems where people are using band workouts, and they're getting massive gains in muscle mass, in strength, in endurance, etc. Like if you look at anybody in the NHL these days, they don't lift free weights. They lift bands, which is like kinesthetic, and like as you increase the length of the band, the weight increases, which is very similar to like life. Like when you pull something, it pulls back. You never pull something and it just like comes with you, right? So that's the difference between like using a free weight and using like inertia training. So there's just little things like that you can dial in, and they're going to be more profound for your daily life.
That sounds cool. I'm not really super like versed on band training. I'll have to check that out.
So basically just increasing resistance for like typical movements, like a speed skater, instead of like just doing the speed skater on a sliding board, having like a band around your waist that's attached to like the weight rack next to you. It's just increasing the resistance as you increase the distance that you're moving.
Cool. I love it. See, I learned something on these podcasts. That's why I love them.
I was going to say on the other side of exercise, and I think we're biased here, I think recovery is also important. And I think it's important in trying to maintain the goals that you have for whatever it is, building muscle, better cardiovascular health, things like that. I think recovery, a lot of people don't see recovery as a form of exercise. It's very low level, low intensity, but at the same time, you're taking care of what you need to take care of so that tomorrow you can go hit the weights hard or go whatever, run whatever distance it is. So as much as exercising and moving your body is important in terms of weights, in terms of getting your heart pumping, you know, hop on a foam roller, get on a lacrosse ball. If you know something's hurting you and you're kind of like, it's sore, but it's kind of not, just hit it, you know. Do some of the exercises that we've given you rehab-wise, because a lot of it is just going to bulletproof you so that you can prevent any injury in the future and obviously take yourself longer in terms of exercising and staying healthy.
I love it. One of the things that we don't think a lot about, but is absolutely one of our pillars of health, is meditation. You know, in that mental aspect. I mean, meditation, I think, is a kind of a gateway or pathway into talking about mental health and, you know, your mental state. But when it comes to meditation, it's often a neglected thing. So if a person's thinking about maybe getting into that, or they recognize they need a little bit more plan or structure or process, or they need to pick that up this year, where would we suggest, how do you get started with that?
Well, I can talk about that a little bit. I mean, I think for a starting place, people should think about just a couple minutes, 2 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes at night. And you can make it longer if you wish, but it's kind of hard in the beginning. I've struggled with it off and on as a slightly highly, somewhat stressed woman, doing a lot of things, so just taking the time for a mind reset. So I'd recommend a couple minutes twice a day. And I like to use guided meditation apps. They're usually free. There's anything from calm.com to Insight Timer is my personal favorite. And you're just having a voice to guide you through it. I usually pick someone who doesn't sound, who I like their voice. There's certain things I don't like I don't like a lot of chimes and gongs and music. I just like someone to talk me through the breathing and the decompression of it. So that's my recommendation is to grab an app and try to set a time. That's the other big thing, is if you just think, I'm gonna meditate, that's not gonna work unless you pick a time that you're gonna do it and be consistent with that. So that would be the way I'd start with it.
I love it. Keep it simple, pin it to a place in your day. Use one of the great apps that are out there. That's the best way to get started. Absolutely. The other piece that's kind of a pillar that we don't talk a lot about or think about is community, the connection we have to each other. And I think when we look at the last 2 years, that's maybe been one of the biggest things that we've seen an impact on is our community. So in terms of establishing those connections and that piece where we're feeling like we're alive and have relationship to people, what are our thoughts on how we can take that up this year?
I mean, it's one of those things where recently it's kind of been tough, right? Because things have been locked down. We haven't been able to like see as many, or people might not want to see as many people, and like there's we've been going through a pandemic, so it's been really tough. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are out of town still, so one of the easy things that I do is I even schedule it into like my calendar and everything like that to make sure it's like my close friends that don't live in different states and everything like that. I call them once a month, honestly, and just set aside the time. They kind of do the same thing, and it's a really easy way to stay connected with them. I know a lot of people know friends, family, anything like that in different states as well, and it's a great way to stay in contact with them. Even for for some people that might still be a little bit wary of like meeting up with people right now. I mean, it's simple things like FaceTime, Zoom, all that kind of stuff, just getting together on that like as much as you can, like even with family, like once a week or something like that. My wife and I, like our family's up in Bellingham. We don't get to see them all the time, or my brother and his wife and our nephews, they're up there as well. So that's an easy way for us to stay connected, and we try to do that like once a week. But and that's just for the for what's going on right now. And it's like now that, well, who knows how things are going to be going forward from here. But if people are still wary of seeing people, that's a nice easy way to do that, especially for people that know people out of state.
Yeah, get back in the phone call habit. It's like dial yourself back into like 1985 when all you had was a phone with a cord attached to a wall, and pick it up and call some people. I love that. And then, of course, we have all the great technology like FaceTimes and Google Hangouts and Zooms.
Yeah.
And I also think it'd be a fun time to write a letter. Pick up the pen and paper and send somebody a letter, man. Old school.
Just classic.
But
Just
don't neglect it,
heartfelt.
right? I think that's the point that
the
you're making
biggest
is
thing is
don't
don't
neglect the fact that
Yeah.
these connections matter, and you have to do extra work to make them happen these days.
You do, yeah. And I mean, I can just say it's like for the some of the guys, my close friends that I haven't seen in a long time. Like every time I get off the phone with them, and it's like sometimes you think you're so busy, all this different stuff. It's like, oh, we got to coordinate time, and it's like just if you have the time, pick up the phone and call. It's like if they don't answer, leave a message, they'll call you back. And it's like talking to somebody on the phone. We don't need to text everybody still, like all the time. If people just text, they don't want to call people anymore. Talking on the phone is great. It's a great way to reconnect. So.
It's a deeper connection. Well, there you have it, guys. 6 pillars, 6 ways that you can focus in 2022 and make it an awesome year. Now, again, you don't have to do all these things, but as you think about your life, where you are today, where you want to go, use these pillars as a filter to take a look at what you want to work on and where you feel like you might need some additional help. As always, if there's anything we can do to help you in your journey, help you move more, feel better, live longer, and prosper, we are here for you. Movement is medicine. Head to toe is the place. And again, we thank you for being here. Guys, thanks for being here. Ladies, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
You're going to make it a great year.
Thank you.
All right, chat later. Bye.
Bye.